In 1984, at the height of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union continued their geopolitical tension. The Americans were victorious in the space race, but that didn't stop the main Soviet nation, Russia, from experimenting with conquering outer space. One of these experiments was carried out in a secret laboratory in Moscow, where two scientists, Alyosha and Sergei, are inspecting the results. Apparently, they are observing a type of living creature created in the lab, which has a voracious appetite for meat. Suddenly, the computer readings show an instability in the security system, with the electric fence being deactivated. Because of this, the creatures, which are a kind of hybrid between humans and sharks, manage to escape. The scientists soon set off the evacuation alarm, but the monsters begin to ferociously attack the laboratory staff. With their superhuman strength and razor-sharp teeth, they slice their victims in half, devour them in one bite, and not even guns can stop them. Nevertheless, Sergei and Alyosha manage to escape and lure the creatures to a rocket ship. They decide to take the monsters into space, because if they reach the ocean, they will become invincible beings and all life on Earth will be threatened. The two scientists reach the cabin, but there are still minutes before the ship can take off. The sharks try to get through the door to devour them, so Alyosha decides to leave the cabin, to give Sergei enough time to take off with the ship. Even against his friend's wishes, Alyosha goes up to the creatures and shoots them with a flare gun, leaving the sharks bewildered. Despite his efforts, the monsters soon recover and attack the scientist, whose body is devoured by them. Fortunately, Alyosha's sacrifice was not in vain and Sergei manages to take the creatures into space, towards the hidden side of the moon. Today, at Cape Canaveral Space Station, a new rocket launch is about to take place. The team, led by Commander Nicole Tress, finishes preparations, but one of the engineers begins to feel unwell due to appendicitis. Nicole suggests postponing the launch, but that won't be possible, so the space station calls in a replacement engineer. This replacement is Michael, who, despite being one of the best in the business, is not well liked by his colleagues. Despite this, he takes the engineer's place, and so the rocket launch to the moon begins. The spacecraft takes off at high speed through the skies and, after passing through the atmosphere, the team confirms that the trip was a success. Now, the route to the moon remains to be followed for the next 68 hours, so the team is free to rest. Hours later, Commander Nicole goes to talk to the scientist, Josie, who is looking for new sources of energy to be obtained on the moon. During the conversation, pilot Tom gets in touch, informing them that there has been an electromagnetic disturbance which has forced them to change course. Because of this, they will have to land in the West Crater, a few meters away from the original landing site. The commander tells them to continue their journey, but when they were approaching the moon, a sudden interference caused the rocket to deviate even further. The team tries to get back on course and make contact with the base on Earth, but for some mysterious reason, communication is interfered with. The situation becomes more critical when the controls in the command center malfunction and the spacecraft crashes into the moon's satellite. Michael and his colleague, Henri, race to the manual controls and manage to stabilize the ship, but it is already too close to the lunar soil and they have to make a forced landing. Luckily, no one was hurt, but as the satellite has been destroyed, there is no way to contact Earth. The commander asks for a situation report and is told that there is enough oxygen and food for them to survive for another 6 months. So she summons Michael, Henri and Liam to search the moon for the astronauts' exploration vehicle, as there may be useful parts inside. The four of them put on their spacesuits and follow the route, until they find the vehicle and collect everything that could be used to return to Earth. After that, they head back to the ship, but in the distance, the group notices that something is piercing the lunar soil and approaching rapidly. Nicole tells everyone to back off, but they soon discover that the monster sharks, brought to the moon by the Soviet rocket, are chasing them. One of them grabs Liam and bites him on the neck, eliminating him instantly. Nicole, Henri and Michael run to save themselves, but due to the moon's low gravity, they can't go any faster. The monster gets closer and closer, but just as it was about to attack Michael, the shark steps on a landmine and is knocked to the ground. Despite the explosion, the monster soon awakens and tries to attack the team, until it is eliminated once and for all when a harpoon, launched by a mysterious duo, hits its body. The team looks in surprise at the two individuals, an old man and a beautiful young woman, who walk around the moon without needing spacesuits. Finally, the old man introduces himself as Sergei, the scientist who took the sharks to the moon, and the young woman is his adopted daughter, Akula. The scientist explains that he has been on the moon for 40 years, waiting for a rescue that never came. Nicole promises to take him on her ship, but that she needs his help to repair the damaged system. Sergei agrees to help, but first he asks the team to accompany him to his hideout. The group headed there in Sergei's vehicle, but just as they were about to leave, one of the hybrids grabbed Henri and took him underground to the shark's hideout. Nicole orders them to go back to save their colleague, but Sergei suggests going to their base and setting up a rescue plan. Reluctantly, the commander accepts and goes with Sergei, while Henri is taken to the shark's lair and held in one of their cells. There, he is approached by Serena, the leader of the hybrids, who plans to return to Earth with Henry's help. Far away, the group finally reaches the hideout of Sergei, who has turned his old rocket into a home. Thanks to the algae plantation he has created, he has been able to grow his own food, enough water and oxygen to survive all these years. He also reveals that he found Akula and raised her as his own daughter, as she was also a hybrid of human and shark. He taught her about human ways of life, but was unable to do the same with the other hybrids, who were created as combat weapons during the Cold War. They now populate the moon and have organized a society of their own, living underground and reproducing from a single individual. With that, the story of Sergei and the hybrids has been explained, but Michael reminds everyone that something important is still missing: rescuing Henri. Akula informs him that he must be in prison in Shark City, and Nicole says that he must be rescued, as he is the only one capable of repairing the damage to the ship. Sergei agrees and, together with his daughter, they start organizing the equipment for the rescue mission. While they are doing this, Nicole activates the communicator and sends a message to the co-pilot, Ellie. She informs them that none of the ship's crew should get in touch, as the hybrids can pick up the messages and identify their location. Unfortunately, the message is interfered with and, because she didn't hear the commander's request correctly, Ellie replies back using the communicator. As a result, one of the hybrids, in the shape of a hammerhead shark, picks up the message and locates the ship and its crew. Ellie fears that her commander is in danger and decides to go after her, along with Owen, the team doctor. Back at the shark's hideout, Henri begins to be attacked by Serena, who forces him to reveal the location of his ship. The mechanic refuses, so she calls Scar, one of her guards, who in seconds removes Henry's leg with a bite and stops the bleeding with a hot iron. In the midst of unbearable pain, Henri promises to say everything, as long as the sharks spare the crew. Serena promises to comply and shows the mechanic the map of the moon to show her where the ship is. Meanwhile, Sergei and Akula give Michael and Nicole the outfits they've created for walking on the moon, along with harpoons made from moon rock. After that, they set off with the exploration vehicle and walk the rest of the way, so as not to attract the attention of the monsters. Finally, Nicole and the rest of the group see the shark's lair in the distance. There, Akula shows them where the quarters where Henri is being held are, and the group organizes a plan to break in, rescue the mechanic and get back to the rocket as soon as possible. However, before they can begin their invasion, one of the guards appears in front of them and tries to attack them. The group aim their spears at the hybrid, who tries to separate them with quick, powerful blows. Despite its physical superiority, the shark can't handle 4 opponents at once. Nicole takes advantage of this and, with a sharp blow to the shark's head, she manages to gouge out one of its eyes with her spear. The monster writhes in pain and punches everywhere, but Akula takes advantage of the moon's low gravity and makes a long leap onto the shark's back. Finally, she uses her double-bladed spear and hits the monster's body, easily eliminating it. With this enemy defeated, the group can continue with their rescue mission and sneak into the Shark City. At the same time, near the rocket ship, Ellie and Owen explore the surroundings and find one of Liam's body parts. The two again try to contact Nicole via the communicator, but this only attracts the attention of the nearby shark. Ellie then orders the two of them to return to the ship, but halfway there, the monster attacks Owen and destroys his body with its sharp teeth. Ellie tries to help him, but another shark appears in front of her. The astronaut throws a moon rock in the monster's face, but this only makes him angrier and she is forced to flee. Unfortunately for her, the shark is faster and, as soon as it knocks her to the ground, it begins to devour Ellie's body. With this casualty, there are only 2 survivors left on the ship, Josie and Tom, who are looking for a way back to Earth. After evaluating the rotation between the moon and the planet, Tom manages to find a faster route, but they only have 6 hours to cross it with the rocket. Otherwise, they'll have to wait another 4 weeks to find the same route. Tom tries to warn Commander Nicole, but doesn't hear back because at that very moment, she is invading the city of sharks. She and Michael are guided by Akula, who warns everyone not to attack the hybrids, as their blood will only attract more of them. Because of this, when one of the guards appears and advances to attack them, Akula knocks him to the ground, but does not injure him. Nevertheless, the creature bites his tongue, spilling enough blood for the others of his kind to be able to track him down. Akula then eliminates him once and for all with her spear, and the group rushes to find Henri. They finally locate the mechanic, who warns everyone about the shark's plan to return to Earth and take over the entire planet. In addition, He has been forced to reveal the location of the ship and the group must return there immediately. On the way back, the team finds a room with dozens of eggs, housing the hybrid babies that will be taken to populate the Earth. Michael suggests destroying them all, but Akula refuses, because just like her in the past, they are innocent beings who didn't have the chance to be born. Their discussion is soon interrupted by the arrival of more hybrids, forcing the group to continue their escape. Meanwhile, on the rocket, Tom and Josie continue to try to contact one of their colleagues, but without success. To make matters worse, one of the sharks has managed to invade the ship and forces them to hide in the laboratory. With nowhere to run, Tom and Josie grab the weapons they find in the room and wait for the shark to enter, fighting for their lives. The same can be said for Nicole, Michael, Sergei and Akula, who have managed to reach the Explorer vehicle, but are now being followed by a gigantic hybrid. They accelerate as fast as they can, but the monster pursues them relentlessly. To slow it down, Akula takes her spear and throws it at the monster, which is bewildered and gives up following them. Out of danger, the team continue on their way, until they find the spaceship with the main door knocked off. They fear that monsters have invaded and eliminated the crew, but to everyone's relief, Josie and Tom are alive and have eliminated the invading shark. With all the survivors reunited, they now have to repair the damage to the ship so that they can escape from the moon. However, they see through the cameras that dozens of sharks are approaching the ship and there is no chance of fighting them in a direct confrontation. Seeing that the monsters have tracked them down because of him, Henri decides to leave the ship and attract their attention long enough for the ship to be repaired. Nicole is against the idea, but Henri is willing to sacrifice himself for the good of the whole team. With no choice, the commander allows him to leave and then, after riding on top of a fire extinguisher, Henri propels himself out of the ship. He encounters the hybrids who, without hesitation, knock him to the ground and prepare to devour him. However, as a last heroic act, he takes an explosive he was carrying in his pocket and sets it off, taking one of the hybrids with it. The team looks on in horror at Henry's sacrifice, but now all that remains is to send the ship back to Earth, so that Henri hasn't lost his life in vain. But the danger isn't over yet, as more sharks soon appear, alongside their leader, Serena, and carrying the hybrid's eggs. The team decides to scatter around the ship and hide, with Josie heading towards the laboratory, but it is soon invaded by one of the sharks. The scientist tries to hide, but accidentally drops a glass off the table, giving away her location and being captured by the shark. The next person to hide is Tom, who goes to the ship's central computer room to download the flight plans for Earth onto his pen drive. Unfortunately, he is also approached by one of the monsters, which knocks him to the ground and destroys his body. Finally, Nicole, along with Michael, Sergei and Akula, try to escape from the ship, but are approached by Serena and her soldiers. The leader of the hybrids says she intends to return to Earth and makes Akula an offer to join her and the others of her kind. Akula refuses, as she would rather stay by her father's side than join the people who abandoned her. Serena then orders everyone to be arrested and leaves for the cabin, where the ship takes off. The quartet is taken to the warehouse and, knowing the risk to Earth if they let Serena invade the planet, they prepare for a final confrontation against the hybrid soldiers, even though they are unarmed. But to everyone's surprise, one of the sharks is hit in the back by a spear used by Henri, who miraculously survives the explosion. However, the man celebrates his victory too soon and is devoured by the other shark that was nearby. Enraged, Nicole grabs one of the spears and strikes the shark in the neck, thus avenging Henri and the rest of her crew. The hybrid falls to the ground, already lifeless, and drops Tom's hand, still stuck in its jaw. While inspecting it, Nicole finds Tom's USB stick, containing the flight plans that could help them get back to Earth. This renews everyone's hopes, so the four of them go to the nearest airlock and jump out of the ship, with the low gravity cushioning their fall. All that remains is for Akula to jump, but before she does, Serena appears and the two face off. Despite her strength, the leader of the sharks isn't skilled enough to take on Akula, who pushes her out of the ship and jumps right back in. Because of the crash, the young hybrid believes that Serena has been eliminated and the group heads for Sergei's rocket. When they get there, more hybrids begin to circulate around the place and they prepare to avenge the elimination of their leader. Faced with the impossibility of escaping them, Sergei decides to use his ship to crash into the moon's core and release the magma inside. In this way, all the sharks are eliminated and Akula, along with Michael and Nicole, must find a way to survive until rescue is sent. Akula doesn't want to let her father do this, but he says it's necessary for his daughter to survive. He then gives her, as a farewell present, an item that he has kept all this time and asks his daughter to use it in a time of need. The two hug and then Sergei asks the three of them to buy time by facing the sharks, while he fires up the ship. Nicole, Akula and Michael arm themselves with their spears and set off for one last showdown against the hybrids. During the battle, Serena appears in front of everyone, revealing that she survived the crash of the ship. She can't contain her rage when she sees the 3 guys who almost eliminated her and, one by one, she throws them into the huge shark's mouth. However, it's too late for her and her army, as Sergei has managed to take off and, gathering his courage, takes the rocket towards the core. As he had predicted, the explosion causes the moon's magma to become unstable and spread throughout the area. The lava begins to eliminate the sharks that were nearby and creates a huge blast of fire, just as Nicole's ship is traveling aimlessly around the moon. Thanks to this, the ship is completely destroyed, but the magma goes on to destroy all the hybrids on the moon, including the monster that swallowed Nicole and her friends. However, when the magma hits the monster's body, it quickly begins to solidify. What's more, the lava causes such a powerful explosion on the lunar terrain that it hurls the monster's body off the moon and towards planet Earth, falling into the middle of the sea. The shock causes the monster's body to disintegrate, but miraculously, Nicole, Michael and Akula emerge from within it, safe and sound. As his father had asked, Akula uses the gift he gave her, which, when activated, turns out to be a lifeboat. After all the chaos they experienced on the moon, the trio are finally on Earth and everything seems to have ended well for them. However, Akula begins to feel strong pains, which seem to be contractions. Nicole is confused, because it seems that Akula is in the process of giving birth. As Sergei had said, hybrids reproduce from themselves and so Akula gives birth to a baby that is a hybrid of a human and a shark. Everyone is amazed at what has just happened, but the baby soon jumps out at Michael and tries to devour his hand. The astronaut defends himself and throws him into the sea, but the maternal instinct makes Akula jump into the water to save him. Despite the strangeness of the situation, everything only gets more bizarre when more hybrid babies, born from Akula, begin to emerge from the water. Nicole soon realizes that all her efforts to eliminate the sharks have been in vain and now planet Earth is in serious trouble. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.